Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Climb the Confident Leader podcast, where we share stories of leaders moving from invisible to becoming an influencer. I'm your host, Rahul Karan Sharma, and today I'm here with another guest who comes from a corporate world, also been involved in coaching with her team members as well as external people. She's a strategist, a people connector, and as I said earlier, coach helping people and organizations thrive through change. With her 20 years of leading talent, culture, and transformation across the global brands like Under Armour, Hyatt Hotels, Apollo Education Group, and the US Olympic and Paralympic Committee, she specializes in turning strategy into behavior that sticks. Now, along the way, she has learned that the real drivers for growth are resilience, clarity, and purpose, not the titles or perks. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome Carlee Wolf to the Client Confident Leader podcast. Welcome to our show, Carlee. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. Thank you for that very warm welcome, and I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure. And we're very excited to unlearn the story of yours, the leadership journey. So please enlighten our audience how you started and where you are today.
Absolutely. I love this question because it gives us an opportunity to kind of reflect where we've been, which we don't get that too often in life. So, for me, and this continues today, it starts with a question, right? What do I want to be doing? Where can I make impact? Why does that matter to me? And so when I think about my leadership journey, those are the questions that I started with. And my career really began when I was at university, and I was in a leadership. I didn't know what it was called at the time. It was a leadership development program, and I
Mm-hmm.
thought to myself, I really like this. What is this? Where can I do more of this? And who can I connect with that I can learn more from?
Oh,
And there it began a lifelong journey in leadership development and organizational effectiveness. And but those questions haven't stopped. I think I'm still thinking about those things today. What am I passionate about? I still love connecting and supporting others in their career journeys, in their performance journeys. Where can I do that at? I serve Hyatt hotels. I also help others in the community. And where can I keep learning? And that's an everyday thing, including our conversation today. But maybe it's not the journey, but I think it's the spirit of the journey that keeps me going, that keeps me energized, that keeps me growing, connected, and I think feeling like I'm having impact.
awesome. That's I think that question that you mentioned, that who can I connect with to learn more, is very, very fundamental and probably shows your curiosity to learn. And I believe that a curious learner is one of the very critical aspect for anyone to grow, anyone to do things that they really want to do. And
Yes.
I know you have been working with many individuals, helping them to develop their career. What are, in from your experience, what are some of the things you think that is holding people back to really be at their best potential, to really get what they really want? What has been your experience?
I'd say maybe 2 big things. One is knowing where they'd like to go, and I'll talk about that in a second, and 2, taking the first step, because I think the first step can often feel really, really difficult or big. So let's start with having that definition of where we'd like to go.
Mm.
I think in exploring and moving, there is you heard me say there's a question, like, "Where can I make impact? What do I like to do?" I think starting with those types of questions to take an idea of, like, I wanna move in my career, right? This big question to or how do I move in my career? So take this big question to, well, then where do I wanna go? And I think the where do I wanna go can start with, like, here's a challenge that I wanna approach. It could be, here's a community that I wanna serve in. Here's a skill set that I can apply. But really having that clear understanding of where you're going, I think is immensely critical. And so I'll give an example. I have a friend of mine who's in, videography, and she's been figuring out for quite some time, like, where does she want to land? She doesn't really love, like, big corporate work, but she likes telling stories. So, okay, let's go with storytelling. Like, where can you tell stories? And then she was layered on of like, oh, I really like sports and I like the pursuit of excellence. Okay, like let's layer stories in pursuit of excellence. I want to do my own thing. Okay, great. So then we start to like think about contractors. So I'm just giving this as an example to say, hey, I want to make a move in my career to what's my mission, impact, purpose, and then where do I want to go with it? So really getting clarity on where you want to go, I think, is immensely important. Then let's
Awesome.
okay. And then as I say, and I can share about the first step, but I'd love like your thoughts on maybe the clarity part.
Yeah, so I think that's where many people fumble, as you rightly mentioned, where they're not very clear why they want what they want. And they're just looking for that next career break, maybe because it is the next best thing, maybe because their best friend get into that job, or maybe an influencer is promoting that company. I don't know. But
Yeah,
sometimes people just go for what is again there in the market without realizing their true potential, without realizing their own sweet spot. So I think
yeah,
getting that clarity, I see that clarity, Carly, is the foundation of our leadership. If
absolutely.
you if you are clear in what and why you want to do, that really puts that stepping stone for you to towards the next step. So
In
you were
fact,
sharing some.
I use like 3 C's a lot. I'm like
Mhm.
curiosity, right? You've heard us do that today. We ask a lot of questions. Having that clarity, right? Where am I going? Where am I headed? What do I want to do? How do I want to impact? Which then builds that confidence to be able to, I mentioned like that first step, to take that first step, or the confidence to move, the confidence to have impact. So, uh, the ecosystem of the 3 C's, right? What's kind of missing in my pursuit of my leadership journey or my career journey, I think could be really powerful. And I want to go back to something you said too. Something I also see folks struggling with. You mentioned like, oh, maybe I hear it on social media or I see something. I also hear a lot of people talk about like title, like, oh, I want to go after this title or
Mhm.
pay, like, hey, this job pays what I want. I think that is always tough. Listen, it is a tough, when you talk about careers and jobs, it's a competitive market. And so you really, even if you have a goal of like, I want to be at a certain level or I want to have a certain salary, because I do think, by the way, those are attributes that we should be considering in our career journey. But in terms of where I go to do it, how I go about it, and where I'm making impact, I think those still sit with us. It still sits with, you mentioned like the value or the contributions. Like we all have our experiences, our skill sets, our passions, our humanness
Yeah.
that has to layer in. And if all we're pursuing is the title or the pay, one, we may not even be marketable. So we're just sort of like going to market, and not getting any value or any like right callbacks.
Mm.
But two, we get in that job, how fulfilling is that going to be? So I think these are for sure important things to explore, and maybe to your point, other things that I see people going after, but that just is it's exhausting. So you don't get any at the end of the day reward or value for those
Absolutely.
pursuits.
And when you started mentioning this topic around the titles or perks, uh, some memories came in my mind when I was managing our previous learning and development group as well as the operations. I learned that people were quitting because of higher pay, that was primary, and two because of the title. And what I have experienced over the 20 years, that yes, people move, but over the next 5 years, they kept on moving five different jobs. Now they stayed with us for 5 years. They did amazing work. They
Yeah.
progressed. But after that, when they moved towards first change, they kept on moving to the second, to the third, to the fourth. And where I'm going at is just because you are successful in an environment, in a culture, does not mean that you will be successful in other place as well, because
Yeah.
it is all about the systems, the processes, the people that you are working with, all those things that play a bigger role, which you do not see, which is kind of your blind spot. And you only see those when you move to a different organization. Then you realize, oh, I need to do this. Someone else was doing that in my previous organization, and I was only focused on my core job, which was sales or which was recruiting or which was marketing. Here, I'm a jack of all trades, master of none. So I have to do everything. So
Yeah.
I think sometimes people just see this title and perks as that grass is greener on the other side, and they miss on that purpose aspect. They miss on that culture aspect, which is very, very important. And I know in your work, Carlee, you have worked on transformation piece, you have worked on the culture piece. Have you observed this aspect where people are settled, and then when they move, they become unsettled for another few years or another few months?
For sure, and I think as you're sharing, I'm kinda, like, in my head thinking about this as 2 potential storylines. One is the storyline of, I am growing in my career, I am in pursuit of different types of impact, I am interested in learning different industries, maybe that also comes with a title and comes with pay, right? I think that that's great, and I think that that's fine. And I think that that's changed over the years. On the other hand, I think what you're talking about is leadership style, who we are and how we show up at the places that we work. And I think that's a really important one to examine because as we move around, whether it's internal, external, we go out on our own, we do have our special gifts that we do bring. And those gifts and how we perform and how we show up might fit really, really well in one environment and not fit well in another one.
Mhm.
And on one hand, I think it's important to acknowledge that because sometimes in the leadership space, we try to like force fit people into that. And I don't know if I think it's important, and you mentioned this, to understand our blind spots and to work on those things because we want to understand whole self and how we deliver wholly. I also think it's important to recognize when our gifts and who we are aren't being valued, shine a light on, and sometimes that just happens. Like, I think about oftentimes why people move into not this is the only reason, or often I would say, look at someone who's a nonprofit, right? Maybe someone that's a nonprofit and moves to maybe this is like kind of a very unjust but oversimplified example, but nonprofit to extreme for profit, right? The cultures that come with that, serving purpose, which might be your community, versus serving outcome of speed, efficiency, delivery, market impact. Those conversations, I think, could relate to people and drive passion in different ways. And how I go about it is different. And so I think it's important to recognize that because we spend a lot of time at work. And perhaps I'm just going down this to make this point, which is we spend a lot of time at work. And so why not celebrate the things that you're really good at, that you bring and navigate really well while continuing to grow in development? So we're not ignoring the things that you have to work on, versus it's a total mismatch of skill appreciation, of impact, how you show up. And so I think you and I are touching on a complicated topic, which is about fit
Right.
versus also what's my leadership journey. And I think it's important to know when those differences are showing up,
Yep.
because one can be evolved and you can grow from and with. The other one might be a question of what else do I want to be doing, or where else do I want to do that at? And by the way, I don't always just mean another company. It could even be a team or a place or a project.
Correct. And I will share a story. So last year, I was looking to add a few team members, and I posted on LinkedIn. And what I noticed was immediately there were like, when I say immediately, maybe in an hour or two, 20 profiles. I see a number that, okay, 20 people apply. And when I'm checking my emails, I don't have 20 emails. I only have four. So I was wondering that where that number is coming, and how the algorithm of LinkedIn works. But anyway, that is not the point I wanted to bring. What I wanted to bring was those four people. What I learned was so I went on the discovery call with them, a quick 5 to 10 minutes. These four people, they never had a chance to review my job description.
Uh,
And it was so disappointing to see that these people have applied for a new job and without reading the core responsibilities, the expectations. So what I wanted to take your pick on is when people are transitioning into roles wherever they think they fit, what are some of the habits or some tips that you want to give to these people who are transitioning into new role, how they can stay grounded and how they can really make a meaningful impact when they're transitioning rather than working in a desperation and losing their chance or giving their not giving their best foot forward. What are your thoughts?
yeah. I think it's interesting. There's two things that came through my mind. One is I do think in the career market, there's a lot of noise. And I think employers play a role in this, candidates play a role in this, managers play a role in this. And so I think in general, my question goes, how can we all bring the human experience to supporting and bringing in someone in a new job? So, for example, if I'm a hiring manager, how can I make those connections? How can I get people into interview? When I think I have some folks that are set, like, let's close that job, right? Those types of things. Same thing if I'm a recruiter. How am I opening it up? How am I closing when appropriate? How am I getting people? How am I responding to their emails, connecting, all of these things? Because I think in absence of that, it also, so to the other part, I do think then you have a market where people are applying to jobs and might be doing that without not looking. We'll say that, let's assume they looked at the job description, which I think is your challenge here, but like, let's assume they at least did that. Um, but to say I don't think people expect that human touch. I think a lot of people expect they may not hear, right? This is the sort of like evolved market that we're in. So one,
Mm,
just gonna go with like a call to action for everyone, which is how do we add humanness back into sort of this job ecosystem?
mhm.
Now, to your other point, which is how can people prepare? I think, well, first of all, it starts with reviewing the job and understanding where you've applied
Yeah.
and why you care. But I think it's like circling back around the conversation we've been having. Well, why was it of interest?
Mm,
How does this add, where can you, or excuse me, where can you add and contribute to the opportunity? Why is that opportunity important for you? Is it what the company does? Is it what you've heard about the culture? Is it the hiring manager themselves? Is it about the skill sets that you can apply and you're excited about those things? So I think really spending some time, I'll go back maybe to the three C's, being curious about why that job is interesting to you, get some clarity on what you can bring to the conversation and exude that confidence. Like go in with that point of view so that the recruiter, hiring manager, et cetera, can really connect with your story, your impact, and can see the possibilities of where you're coming in. So ultimately, there's a lot of humanness that comes into this.
mm.
But I think it goes back to the prep and understanding and bringing to the conversation.
Correct. And I think you're bringing a good point because after COVID, primary people are just focusing on that online aspect and they just keep on hitting, thinking just like, okay, they will put a spaghetti on the wall. If it sticks, sticks, without realizing that every chance that every employer that you are applying, they are looking at your profile. You may be just doing it for a time pass, or maybe you must be doing just for sake of doing, but it is also limiting your opportunity because I think most of the organization, Carly, once you submit a profile, they do not allow you to submit for another week, 10 days, 20 days, depending on company to company, because your profile is already in their system. So you need to really be cautious when you're applying. Don't just apply just because the company is good or the company is a Microsoft or a Google. You need to really see how you will be able to add value. So thank you for bringing that point, is getting the clarity aspects and getting that why you want to apply and why you think it's the right profile for you.
Yeah.
Very, very
Well,
important.
I want to maybe emphasize the word growth in this because we're talking
Hmm.
about career growth. And with growth comes effort and intentionality. And I think the clearer that folks can get on where they want to go, the better that time is invested. So to your point, it's not about I'm just at a fleeting moment sending a resume off or sending an email for the place I work to be like, hey, do you have a minute to chat about career opportunities, right? We're just sort of chipping away at stuff. I'd love to get anyone on on your podcast that's done that and it's been successful. I think about it as I'm going to use a metaphor. Think about going to the gym. You're either you put work in, which looks like a workout. Like I'll just use a simple one of like weight circuits. I'm going to go
Mhm.
around. I'm going to do some weights. The equivalent of that, what we're talking about, would be to go to each machine and like do like one push and like move on to the next one, or like move the clip on the weight, and then leave. Like you're not putting in any work, therefore you're not going to get anything out of it. You will not have had your workout, which has health benefits.
Mm,
Same thing with your career mobility. I can't just like send out a resume or send a meeting invite without intentionality and work to expect an outcome of development and growth.
Yep. And I think I was just reading an article a couple of days ago on LinkedIn, and the career coach, the guy was mentioning that, especially for director and above kind of a jobs, just applying on LinkedIn or applying on a career website is not going to get you a job. It's,
Yeah.
it's more about networking, more about relationship, more about how well you know the person and the person knows you. I understand that in this global world, it's really sometimes impractical, But I think that is what is making the making things work, especially in director and above level job.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And I think you're talking about, like, that, like, level of role, which I totally agree with you on. I also think it's about maybe opportunities that we may not see in front of us that could be impactful.
Mhm.
And I'll give an example, and I think one of the things we're talking about, I'm gonna use the term networking, like, who are we connecting with and learning from and, evolving and improving or growing together. I was actually just at lunch the other day with someone that I met who is so I live in Baltimore, Maryland. I had reached out, let's see, about last year. I was kind of like engaging my network in Baltimore. We had been out of a pandemic. I was like, okay, I want to connect with other professionals. So in
Mhm.
some cases, I'm reaching out to folks I never heard from. That's
Mhm.
fine. In this case, I had someone reach back out that said, would love to connect. I'm always growing my network. So we had this chat. We learned about each other, what we're passionate about, what we're doing. Fast forward, here and there, we've done things together. I just had her join a community conversation panel that we had that was supporting on a nonprofit board that I'm on. In fact, by the way, she helped get me on a nonprofit board because she told me about a program in Baltimore that helps connect people with nonprofits. We're also talking about future opportunities, HR conversations that we can have in the community. I give this personal example to say, in this case, it's not about a job. It's really about professional network, how we can support one another. By the way, that's now yielded community impact. It's yielded conversation. It's yielded career growth for me and being able to be able to be on in conversations. And so I think this is a good example of putting in the effort to find the connections to continue to grow. So whether it's the director level and above job that you're trying to get because you're building your professional executive network or you're just growing in your community, all of these things can come back and yield that things that are of value to you and to those that you're working and connecting with. But it
Mhm.
starts with a conversation. And it starts with a conversation that might have come with a few no's or non-replies. So that's okay. It's okay to have that balance, but to find the people that want to work and connect with you, because I think there's a lot of magic that can happen in that.
Yep. Very great example because at times people are thinking that within that one meeting, magic will happen.
Oh yeah.
And they are expecting results, quick results. But its relationship is professional or personal. It's you need to invest time.
Yes.
And the way I look at networking, Carly, is it's all about giving. Because the moment you have that intention, okay, what can I get from this person? Your mindset is at a different level altogether. But if you go with that servant leader mindset that I want
Yes.
to help, I want to give, the universe will always help you try to get things to you rather than you wanting things to get done in that one meeting, two meetings, because as you mentioned rightly in your conversation or experience, it was not just one meeting. It
Yes.
was series of meetings. It is allowing you and that individual to know you, trust, like, and that likability factor. And now you are able to support each other. And I'm sure there would be many more opportunities where you work together. So
Yes.
thank you
Couldn't
for
agree
sharing
more.
that experience because networking is important, but how you do networking is more important than just doing the networking.
Yes. Well, and I love what you said, which is the servant leader part of it. Where are you looking to serve, support others? Because I mean, I think you gave an outcome of like, it could yield something down the road. I also think about it, it's like a win-win. It also, by the way, intrinsically feels good. And
Hmm.
and these are things, it also takes time. So I also recognize like you and I are here chatting about this is something I've been working on personally for like 10 years. I've like listened to a podcast or talked to people that talk about network and I'm like, okay, that sounds really good. And then I get on a call, like I think of like earlier years, I'd get on a call, be like, how can I help you? And they're like, what are you even talking about? We just met. And so I had to like find my own finesse and way to like figure it out. And it really is, like you said, a relationship that takes some time,
Hmm.
but it can really like blossom. But in the spirit of it takes time to build the skill, one thing that I've just started to come into for myself, and this was inspired by somebody in my nonprofit board work, I asked someone a question: how do I get others engaged? Like, how do I get others engaged in this nonprofit? Like, part of my role I know is to be a brand advocate and to support or to do fundraising. I don't know how to do that. Feels weird asking people.
Yeah.
And what they told me is they said, invite people you know along the journey. Say you're going to an event, bring them along. Say you had a good conversation, tell somebody about it.
Mhm.
And I've started to do that, and it's been, I think, really, really fun. And I'll just give an example. Just this week, I got invited to a dinner to learn about a vendor that's in the learning and development space. And they said, and if you know anyone else in your network that would like to join, let me know. I think normally I would have let that sit there, but I was like, all right, yeah, I am going to go tell 2, 3 people about it. So here I am in my Baltimore DC network. I reached out to a few people I haven't heard from in a while, and I said, let's go learn together. By the way, we get to catch up and connect. I get to learn more about them. We get
Mhm.
to have a shared experience. Maybe there's something that comes from it, maybe not, but we'll still have that night together. And that's nice enough just to have that too. So I just
Mhm.
play that example out because I do think people wonder, like, great, this conversation sounds nice, but how do I do it? So hopefully that leaves a few tips that are feel
Mm.
tangible.
And I think it's a mutual benefit. It's you are learning, they are learning, and you are creating that ecosystem that who can you call when you need help. In today's world, there are very few people whom you can count on fingertips that they will be ready for you whenever you need help.
Yes.
So I think it is important for us to create that camaraderie, create that inner circle where you can just pick up your phone and then call them and they are there for you.
And that accessibility is so much easier these days. You brought up phone. I'm like, okay, I got text, I got LinkedIn, I got email, I have Group V, WhatsApp, right? There's so many places that you can meet people these days and connect. And to your point, call for help, the answer for help, all of that exists so much more seamlessly than
Correct.
ever before.
Correct, correct. But Carly, we will keep on going and on and on. It will never end the way we are gelling and the way the conversation is going. But in the essence of time, I do want to move to the next segment. And before I move to the next segment, rapid fire round, if anyone listening to our episode is inspired by your approach, what is the most effective way for them to connect with you and work with you?
Yeah. Best way to get a hold of me and to connect is LinkedIn. Uh, you can follow me. I do talk about careers, leadership, workforce, nonprofit boards. Also happy to take a message. In the spirit of connection and in the spirit of networking, always happy to do those things.
All right, we will include Carly's LinkedIn profile on our show notes and definitely would recommend you welcoming her on your network. Now, we are moving to the final rapid fire round where we will be asking 5 questions and would have you respond without thinking too much. All right,
Okay,
you ready, Carly?
ready. Let's go.
Awesome. The first one is a quotation that you live by.
Ooh, what got you here won't get you there.
Mm, wow. What you got you here won't get you there. Excellent. Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Evening for sure. Always trying to be morning. Always trying.
What's one daily routine you never skip, no matter how hectic is your schedule?
Uh, When I wake up in the morning, it's always about I try to think about what I wanna do in the day. I spend time with my dog, and those 2 things, like, really get me going, get me grounded in what's to come and grounded in what is and what I'm very grateful for.
And what's one leadership skill you wish someone had taught you earlier?
I think that a superpower is curiosity. I've always been curious, but I didn't know the power of that, and so I think, maybe somebody coming through with that underscore Sharpie to be like, "Keep
Yes.
staying curious because it's gonna continue to, um, serve you well."
Final one, if your career were a Netflix series, Carly, what would be the title of season one be?
Saying yes and saying yes and learning from yes.
Okay, saying yes and learning from yes. All right, so that's what Carly Wolf for you, ladies and gentlemen. Before I let her go, I wanted to share my learnings from the episode. And now this is an opportunity for you to put in comments. What is your biggest takeaway? If you're listening to us on Spotify or watching us on YouTube, this is a time for you. But if you're driving, you can hold on and you can put in the comments once you are at a safe zone. So number one for me was to think about who can I connect with to learn more? Who are the people that I need to connect to learn more, to grow, and to seek that guidance? There are very few of us who think on those aspects, and that was a very key instrumental factor for Carly as she was growing up in her university days. Uh, Taking that best step, it is always about taking that step. Sometimes we keep on thinking and we do not take that step. But taking that first step is important. And the aspect that Carlee really swears by is those three C's: curiosity, clarity, and confidence. So three C's: curiosity, be curious, get that clarity, and be confident. And finally, recognize your own gifts. We all have been born with gifts. We all have been born with talent and skills. Know what your talents are and focus on sharpening that talent rather than just thinking about those things which are not your sweet spot. For career transition, be patient and focus on why you are looking for that job. What is something that is bringing you closer to that job? So those are some of the aspects that we learned today from Carlee. She's been very, very instrumental corporate leader and a coach, helping people in transitioning from between roles, helping them to move to the career of their choice. Thank you, Carlee, for being here on the show. We really appreciate it and wishing you the best.
Thank you so much. What a lovely recap. What a lovely conversation. And I look forward to continuing to listen, to learn from you, and to learn from others. So
Absolutely.
thank you. Thank you very much.